Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you for coming to watch. We got guys an update on newly formed tropical storm Imelda. She is expected to move up towards the southeastern United States, bringing some minor impacts as far as flooding is concerned. I've got all the details coming right up, right? So thank you for joining me here on this Sunday afternoon. We have a lot to talk about in this video. So we're going to be going over all the latest information on Tropical Storm Imelda. We have obviously noticed a significant trend and a pretty hopeful trend from the models where we are expected to see Imelda turn away from the United States, but she has officially formed, and so she has taken the I name. We are still expected to see some heavy rainfall across the southeast coast of the United States in the next couple of days. But we start out here by taking a look at your current satellite. You can see we have two things going on. One, we do have Hurricane Humberto, which was recently a Category 5 hurricane. It was a monster hurricane. We had absolutely stunning, beautiful satellite imagery coming out from the International Space Station and really just every source we can get. But I really put on the show last night. Still a perfectly symmetrical, very powerful major hurricane. So this is Humberto right now, again, moving into the southwest Atlantic. Alright, and then to its west, we have newly formed Tropical Storm Imelda, which you can see is starting to look much healthier on satellite. We'll take a closer look in a minute. But you can see some dry air is starting to wrap itself into the circulation. You can see that very strong cold front moving in, so that will definitely limit some of the development of Imelda. But you are expecting to see Imelda become a hurricane later this week, so we'll get into that just in a second. But this is the latest from the National Hurricane Center. You can see we have two named storms currently on your screen, the H name being Humberto, and then we have the I name being Imelda. So Humberto currently, as of 11 a.m. Atlantic Standard Time, this was a 150 mile per hour Category 4 hurricane, I believe, with minimum central pressure at 934 millibars. So movement is west-northwest at 13 miles per hour, so Humberto is starting to pick up the pace. Alright, but pretty much just to its west, we have newly formed Tropical Storm Imelda, which is currently sitting pretty much, again, just over the Bahamas at 40 miles per hour, so those are your maximum sustained winds. Minimum central pressure is under 1,000 millibars at 998, and it is moving very slow north at 7 miles per hour, so that is as of, again, the 2 o'clock update from the National Hurricane Center. So you have currently two tropical systems in the Atlantic as of right now. But we take a closer look at Hurricane Humberto. Again, this is a monster Category 4 hurricane, still a perfectly symmetrical hurricane. You can see how the whole thing is just like, it's perfect. It's a perfect circle. You have outer bands with a absolutely mean and devastating eye wall and outer eye wall. So a very, very strong, powerful hurricane that obviously we're very thankful for it to be moving away from the United States. But this is actually our saving grace as for what's going to be pulling Imelda away from the United States, which is sparing us a lot. Because again, we could have seen record-breaking flooding with Imelda if it were to make landfall. But you can see, again, a very tight eye there, a little bit of a northwest wobble, so it is starting to take that turn away from the United States, but just a really, really nice looking hurricane here as it continues to move farther and farther into the southwest Atlantic. So the current National Hurricane Center forecast cone from or at least for Hurricane Humberto, again, we are expecting it to stay as a major hurricane all the way up until about 8 p.m. Tuesday, where it will begin to curve to the north, paralleling the east coast, and it'll just be to the west of Bermuda, so it's a perfect, like, right in between the United States and Bermuda, where we don't really see any major impacts. We still could definitely get some gusty winds and possibly even some heavy rain at times in Bermuda if we do see Humberto take a little bit of an eastern track towards Bermuda, but for the most part, we are expecting the eye of the storm to stay far enough away from Bermuda that we will be spared some significant impacts, but it will officially turn all the way out to sea as we get into Wednesday and eventually into Thursday, where it will downgrade to a Category 2 hurricane and then move off into the North Atlantic, likely becoming an extratropical cyclone. So you take a look now at newly formed Tropical Storm Imelda, where you can see lots of convection is popping off here over the past couple of days. We've seen very slowly, spinning thunderstorms that have developed. This time we are seeing a much more compact and better looking tropical system. Now, if you were to tell me that this was a tropical storm yesterday, obviously I wouldn't believe you because it's very unorganized. this thing is looking much more organized now. It's starting to get its act together again. Still some pretty disorganized showers and thunderstorms, but it's definitely starting to circulate a lot better here, and so we'll be able to really start to see that organization as we get into the next couple of days once this gets a little bit farther north in the Bahamas. But right now, tropical storm conditions are underway across the Bahamas, where we're seeing very, very heavy rain as well as gusty winds of up to 50, maybe even as high as 60 miles per hour, and Imelda is expected to continue to strengthen over the next couple of days. So the latest from the National Hurricane Center on Imelda's forecast cone is that we will likely see a much farther and more sharp return, as this will likely be moving rather due north than northwest. But we still do have tropical storm watches in effect here for the sliver of the east coast of Florida. I believe some of these, like maybe a tiny bit, were upgraded to tropical storm warnings, but most of them will likely stay as tropical storm watches, as we are expecting Imelda to again take a little bit more of a sharper curve out to sea. But really by 8 a.m. Tuesday, we are expecting this to become a Category 1 hurricane, so I definitely do think that we could have a hurricane on our hands for a couple of days as we get into the middle part of this week. So really, again, once you wake up on Tuesday morning, Imelda will likely be already a Category 1 hurricane, but we do actually have a small piece of land in the cone of uncertainty for Imelda. We are expecting Imelda to stay as a likely strong hurricane as we get into the end of this week, but Bermuda is in the direct path, at least the cone of uncertainty for Imelda at this time. So again, a lot is still to be figured out, a lot can change, but so far it looks like we could be talking about some pretty significant impacts towards Bermuda, again, if we were to see Imelda take this kind of path. So it's very possible that we'll see that, but we'll obviously have to continue to watch for the next couple of days for future model trends and changes. But if we look at now the HWRF hurricane model, this is the main hurricane model we use to kind of go hour by hour here and day by day, looking at what the output and future of Imelda looks like. And so you can see, again, we will likely start to see some pretty rapid strengthening, getting down likely to deepening to a sub 990 millibar low. This is really starting to get its act together. You can see a really nice looking northwest corridor there of this storm, and you can see we are getting very close to receiving pockets of heavy rain to again the immediate coastline of Florida. So I definitely do think that if this storm does take a little bit more of a western track, which is still possible that could happen, we could be talking about some instances of relatively heavy rain, again, just on the immediate coastline of Florida, but most of the heaviest rain will stay offshore, again, where that low pressure center is going to be beginning to exit the region and getting away from the United States. But if we do see those outer bands again make their way over land, there is a potential for some isolated thunderstorms and obviously instances of heavy rain. But really by Tuesday morning, right around when we are expecting this to hit at least Category 1 status, this will likely be making its way already off of the coastline. And at this point, we could already have potentially even a relatively strong Category 1 hurricane, again, low to mid-end. And then it continues to move away from the United States, but eventually we'll likely see Bermuda come into the picture here, and this is deepening already to a sub 970 millibar low. This is 967 millibars. So at this point, we're likely approaching Category 2 status, if not already there. And it does make a run for sub 960 millibar pressure, so that would likely bring us a little bit closer to even major hurricane status as we get into Thursday, which would be the first day of October. And we're getting into Thursday night, and this does eventually actually get very close. I thought that said 956 millibars, but it's actually at 966 millibars. So, again, still a very, very organized, very strong hurricane, likely high-end Category 2 status, an absolutely mean northwest eye wall here. This would be pounding whatever is in its path with very heavy rain and gusty winds, likely up to 100+ miles per hour. So we're very lucky that this is not going to be impacting at least the U.S., but it continues to move closer to Bermuda, and we actually do see the storm start to get sheared off quite a bit, and you're going to start to get a lot of dry air intrusion. You can actually see the storm getting eaten away from all this dry air that's getting kind of wrapped into the circulation. So that northern eye wall, or at least the northwestern eye wall, is going to stay the dominant side of the storm. Alright, but on this part of the HWRF, it does end up impacting Bermuda with very heavy rain and likely wind gusts of up to 100 miles per hour, again, still at 978 millibars. So that is a very, very strong hurricane impacting Bermuda. So well, obviously it's going to take a couple days to see it and determine exactly how strong and extensive the impacts are going to be. But this one on the HWRF does have Bermuda getting pounded pretty hard again. Right around midday on Thursday, so in line with the National Hurricane Center's forecast, but definitely not the strongest of storms that we ever seen. But if this does continue to maintain its strength and it's a little bit more intense, we could potentially be talking about some hurricane watches and eventually warnings, again, issued for Bermuda if this forecast cone and path stays the same, which I definitely do think that's a possibility. So, speaking of the forecast path, we take a look now at the GFS Ensemble Run. This is going to give us all of our ensemble members that show us where they depict this storm going. And you can see a huge difference between yesterday's ensembles and today's ensembles. They've cleaned up quite a bit on exactly where the storm is going to go. Really, all of the members have this thing, again, taking a sharp curve out to sea towards Humberto. So, at this point, we can completely rule out a landfall on the southeast coastline, so obviously a very, very close miss there, but still some members taking this a little bit closer to Florida, which I think is still a possibility, but at this point the impacts are expected to be pretty minor other than some very rough surf. Again, high rip current risk throughout really all of the eastern seaboard today, with obviously major Hurricane Humberto also lurking to its east. So a lot is going to be going on over the next couple of days, but we are likely going to be missing, again, those significant impacts from Imelda, it looks like, from, or at least for the southeastern United States. And we can look also, just in case, at the European ensemble. This was the ensemble that was taking a little bit of a slower time, a longer time, to fully, bring the storm away from the United States, and it still does have a few members that don't line up the timing well enough to the point where we do see the storm continue to move north. So I would say that it's very, very unlikely that we see the storm get anywhere near the East Coast, just relative to where it's at now. I do think that it's likely going to make that sharp curve out to sea at this point. And you can see quite a few members actually do have that happening, but just to keep this idea in the back of your head, just remember that some of the ensembles do bring Imelda a little bit closer to the United States, which again could enhance the potential for seeing some more heavy rainfall, but it's very, very unlikely that we'll get, anything more than just a couple inches, again, from Imelda. And we actually can look at now, this is the latest Weather Prediction Center's rainfall forecast for Imelda. So we start out here with Florida. You can see we are still expecting to pick up a couple inches of rain if we do see Imelda pass by pretty close, but you can see also just how close we are to seeing a very, very significant amount of rainfall just offshore. We have rainfall totals of up to 10 inches, again, with the core of Imelda passing just by. So we are very, very thankful for that to be missing us. But it looks like the main theme here is about 2 to 4 inches for the entire east coast of Florida, so all the way from Miami up towards Jacksonville. But it really looks like the heaviest of rainfall and the highest amounts are going to be anywhere between Daytona Beach all the way down to towards West Palm Beach. So if you live anywhere, again, on the immediate coastline of Florida, I definitely do think some of those outer bands could bring some heavy rain for a couple hours there that could accumulate to about 2 to 4 inches over time. And then we switch things over now to our folks in Georgia and South Carolina, where we see a pretty similar theme. Again, just about 1 to 2 in instances of 2 to 4 inches, anywhere from really Myrtle Beach down towards St. Mary's. But the closer you go up the coastline, the more north you go up towards Myrtle Beach and Charleston. This is where we do have the potential to see maybe closer to 2 to 4 inches. But again, this is likely more of the worst case scenarios, because I really don't see Imelda coming a whole lot closer to the southeast coastline. And again, you also are going to have plenty of dry air feeding into it on the backside, so that's really going to limit your chances for seeing heavy rain. But we could definitely get, again, with that initial plume of moisture, some heavy rain up towards, inland areas like Florence and Fayetteville and Columbia. That is not associated with Imelda. That's just the entire, moisture return that's getting pushed all the way up into the southeast, allowing for Imelda to move north for a short amount of time. Alright, but definitely the potential for 2 to 4 inches between now and the next couple of days associated with Imelda and also not associated with Imelda is all going to be possible. So make sure that if you do encounter some flooded roads, that you turn around and that you do not drown. And then for the last part of the update, we take a look quickly at the North Carolina coastline all the way up towards Virginia, and you can see also pretty similar rainfall totals. However, if we do see again Imelda take that more northern track, and we also do see again that heavier rain lingering ahead of Imelda for a couple more days, we could definitely see those rainfall totals add up, where we could actually see a zone of 2 to 4 inches all the way up towards Fayetteville, Jacksonville, Wilmington, and Florence. They actually are going for 3.5 inches over the next couple of days for Wilmington. So again, the possibility of some instances of urban flooding and obviously excessive rainfall is going to be possible. That really does not look to be nearly as bad as obviously a couple days ago, where we really were preparing for a direct hurricane landfall and obviously a pretty ugly scenario. But it really does look like only an inch or two of rain is to be expected for really the entire region. But if you're on the immediate coastline, it does look like there could be slightly more rain, but really just about 2 to 4 inches at best. Alright, so that's all I got for you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you go hit that like and subscribe button below. Also consider donating to the PayPal. We are getting very close to monetization, so make sure you guys obviously turn on the bell for notifications so you don't miss out on any of my videos, uploads, or live streams. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you for coming to watch, and I'll see you guys in the next video.